What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Hillbilly Harvesters. I got another how to landscape video for you. Today we're going to be talking about placing buildings and realistic landscaping texturing. We'll start off showing you with a couple screenshots of a Wilhelmina project I have going on. Just kind of looking how we're making the maps look alive and lived in. Stick around and we'll get into it. So episode 1, we started in our test map. We got used to the controls a little bit of how to use the landscape tool. And this one we're going to do a little bit more of the same. Hopefully you guys are following along and you guys have a test map as well now, where we can go practice some of this stuff. I want to kind of focus on making stuff flat, making stuff smooth, and making it flow, making our additions to the map look like they were built in. I'm going to show you guys how to make hills, which is the hardest thing in my opinion to do with the landscape tool. I'm going to show you guys how to make roleplay stockpiles for your screenshots. And we're just going to go on the second half of the video is going to be kind of sped up a little bit. I go into Larry's new map and just kind of clean up a little bit of the detailing as far as the texturing goes. So stick around and let's get into it. Now the first thing I'm doing here is we're going to do a hillside. How I like to start is basically with the flatten function. If I have a flat area up top and a low grade on the bottom, what I like to do is take areas and make a step up. You're gonna notice if you press flatten in a specific area, it's gonna use that grade, that elevation that you click. If you move the cursor, it's gonna drag it and it's going to make everything that the cursor touches that same elevation like I'm doing now. If you make steps like stairs along the whole way up that you want your hill, and then after you come back and all you do is hold your smooth button, which is Y for Xbox, and triangle for PlayStation, you're gonna see how it's gonna smooth out the whole area, and now I'm gonna have a nice ramp. This is one way that I use to construct hills or make new hills that are actually drivable with the farm sim physics, especially if you guys are doing logging. I'm sure you guys notice when you guys get loaded logging vehicles, they're very top heavy and like to tip over. Part of that is because of the road is not flat or you're going too fast in your corners. How do we fix that? You either slow down or you fix your road. The smooth function is probably my most used function that I do personally in Farm Sim. So right here, all I'm using is the smooth function. And with this line, you guys can really see how the grid system kind of works. It's a very straight line on the side of our pad right there, and then how it matches with the ground. And then since we're flat, I made a little mistake. You can see the area that I touched just to make the flatten, how much of an area it really changes. So if we use the flatten function, we know we have a flat spot up top like this. We always know that we can get back to where we need to be and then continue to go. A lot of this is going to be practice. So on the second half of this hill, I'm going to show you guys the other technique that I do for hills. That's basically going to be moving while holding the lower button. Now you can see that I pressed the lower button, which is going to be X for Xbox, and I believe square for PlayStation. And then I moved the cursor slowly while I was still holding it. I wasn't tapping the button, I just held it the same way as I hold the smooth function button. And then I slowly moved the cursor without moving. And then once I got to the very bottom section right there where I'm at now, I could tell by the sides that I was flat with the existing ground. If I had went a little lower, that would have been okay, because I already know from when we did our test map that the ground is flat. So we could have just done our smooth function and made the ground flat. If I didn't do a good one in the beginning, we could have used the smooth function and brought it all back nice and smooth. So over there, I just went and put grass on the little side, and now we have almost like a little bridge if we were able to dig and put culvert type pipes under it, or any type of role play bridge that you guys need to do. That's how you do it. Now here, I'm just kind of showing you guys little examples of how little movements of the cursor, when you guys are using the landscape tool, the cursor likes to jump and move, and you can kind of mess up, and that's when you guys are getting most frustrated. Again, this test map is a great place to come practice, because you don't have to save, and you can come back and do whatever you guys want. I think right here I am actually going to do a stockpile for roleplay, show you guys how I build that. But I want you guys to just build piles, build weird crazy stuff with the different function sizes, figure out what the square function does. With smooth, figure out what the circle function does with the smoothing button, and just play around, get familiar with the system. And all I'm going to do right here to make a stockpile for our roleplay stuff is just mess around. I'm going to make a big, tall, ugly monstrosity, just messing around, playing with different grades, lowering while I'm moving, stopping, and just looking at what it's doing, what my movements have an effect with, basically. And then once you guys are all done, all you got to do with your big monstrosity, if you don't like it, that smooth button is your friend. That's all I did there was do a big bubble function, hold smooth, and then right here I'm going to our flat surface. I'm going to just kind of take a little chunk out, and then I'll go in here and add some grass, some paint texture. Maybe we'll go in and add a couple pieces of equipment as role play stuff. And then we have a stockpile. We can put little grass textures up here so it looks like it's been there for a while. There's a whole bunch of stuff you guys can do. This is the No Man's Land pack again that we have saved in my test map just for detail stuff. It's got all these cool placeable cars. We'll put a couple tractors in here. And then at the end, just to kind of show you kind of the difference. Right now we have what looks to be a dirt stockpile, and at the end I change it to a gravel. One thing I want to show you guys real quick right here is when you guys place stuff, if there is a hill, you guys are going to get this little bit that is unable to be landscaped, and that's because the grid that it's in has the placeable on it. You cannot adjust that placeable. So that goes into another thing that we're going to be talking about here with placing buildings. And one of the reasons we want to make sure we plan ahead and pay attention to where we want to put our placeables. We want to prep the area before we place them, and that's going to really help kind of eliminate that stuff right there that we're seeing, and the bumps when we're going over that. So real quick, let's switch this over to a gravel just to show you guys. It's just a little bit of paint, and you guys can have a whole stockpile really super simply. So kind of just that fast with two different paints, we have a dirt stockpile and a gravel stockpile. And then when we're done with our role play, if we wanted to make it back flat again, we know the ground's flat, so all we have to do is go to our flat point, press flatten, and we're gonna delete the whole bubble that we just made, whole stockpile out of our monstrosity. Just a very simple, cool little trick to help you guys have more fun. The next thing that we're going to get into is placeables and why we want to make the ground flat before. If you look at the bottom of the green area of the floor, we're going to notice it's flat. And then when we move over and hang it over a hill, it's going to have that area on the bottom that it's going to need to grade. This is also going to make our building more expensive. So let's get into an actual building and I'll show you the difference of what we're going to look for when we're placing it and kind of how we can plan and what it's going to do when we do stuff. Let's use a shed to start. First, we're just going to place one over here flat, and then we'll go over here where we made our little entrance. Maybe you guys want to have a covered entrance. If we look on the right side there, we'll see that, okay, let's look on the front. If we place it on here with that bottom part, it is going to look terrible. It's going to bring the grid back up and make the solid base, and you're going to have this ugly spot in the middle. And just like with the placeable of that tractor we did in the background, it's not going to let us flatten everything like we want to. How we would avoid this is make the ground flat before, or we would have to move this whole structure back farther if we wanted to still have that nice flat entrance grade that we had already made. Now, this looks okay. I mean, it's functionable, but if we're looking for professionalism and making things look like they were built in the map and not added by us, this is not going to work. As you can see right here with my smooth function, we can do a little bit and make a little bit of a smooth grade, but we're always going to have that rough edge on that other side. For me, I just don't like that. I don't have a good time with it. So let's go over here and I'll show you guys in an area that we haven't flattened what we can do and how we can try to plan ahead a little bit. We'll make this area, we'll say it's a gravel pad already that's not been graded, so it's just the natural curve of the earth. We'll get rid of this crop and we'll start putting a couple buildings down, and I'll show you guys a little bit more of how the grade is going to raise if the ground isn't flat on all different corners, and how we can fix that. The area that you guys are going to want to place the building is going to need to be bigger. You're going to have a bigger area of the building than you think you are in order to landscape the ground around it. We'll use the same shed over here. Put another building over here just to get some variety. You can see the edge right there really popped up. And we'll go right in the middle. So say this is how you guys build your farms a lot. You guys go place your buildings, and that is totally fine. The problem you guys have is this right there, and the whole reason we're making these videos is making it look like it was built in. Because as you can see with the red areas, what we can and cannot do, what we will get away with, it's never going to be perfect and flat if we don't adjust the area first. I'll spend a couple minutes here just trying to get the area as flat as I can, just to kind of show you guys the difference. It's not going to be a huge noticeable difference to the eye, but if you guys are trying to back in a low trailer with a pickup truck this way, or have a low boy try to go out and you guys hit these bumps and get all thrown off, this is why it just won't flatten out. That's because the pad for the property wasn't graded right to begin with. So let's go down in here. Say our entrance is going to be here and I want to make it flat. You can see the difference of the grade in here already. And if I go with our flat function like we've been practicing, how different the grade and how really messed up it can get really quick. But if you use our simple tools that we've been practicing, you can also fix it. I had no plan when I started doing all this stuff. I'm just doing this randomly to make a video to show you guys what kind of happens and how you guys can fix it, how I go about doing certain things. Right here, I'm just kind of working on our little driveway, getting it flattened out. We're obviously going to have a little step there, and up into this little shed, I want it to be nice and flat. I want to have a little area that we can get to the top side, and I will go back and work on this. This whole thing right now that I'm doing with the different buttons pressings is to show you the different grades, how big that area again is, and how big it's going to affect. The different grades, if you press it even a foot above, is going to change that whole area. So what we're going to do to plan this out, say I want a building right here. We can already see that it's not level. So let's say I want to use this building. We would technically do this first. I want to use this building and I want to put it right here. So I would push this here. I would go with my paint tool and say, okay, this is the area that that building is going to take up. It is not flat. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to that area and I'm going to press flatten. Boom. Now that area is flat. The building would go in there and it would not change the ground, but the area that is around it right here is not flat, obviously. And I will be able to go in and smooth it and bring the grade nice and level with everything else around it. And we're going to be able to landscape the side. Now, I'm going to widen the area right here a little bit on this back side and on the front, because that's going to give me just a little bit more room, like I was talking about, that I'm out of the grid area that the placeable structure is using. So here's my example of how you need to have a bigger area than your placeable building. We will go in and put the placeable now. Boom. Right here in our blueprinted, planned out area. And then the whole area around the side, we can go in and just hold our smooth function, and it's going to grade everything, bring it nice and smooth so we can get in between our buildings. Now, had we done this to that next building over, we would have been in, we wouldn't have got that red marker that popped up, and it would have been perfectly smooth and fine. So I'm just, again, trying to show you guys the importance of planning out ahead and making the areas flat, especially when you're using placeables. Because the more prep work you do, the more extra room you guys can give yourself is gonna be better for you in the end. You're gonna run into these little problems that are kind of unforeseeable and stuff sometimes, and that's okay. I kind of got into a little bit with touching on saving. Save when you guys are super happy with something. Don't save and restart your save game when you guys mess up and don't, aren't happy with it. It's okay to do that. Sometimes you guys are going to run into stuff that's unforeseeable, and I'll kind of show you guys a couple things here in a few minutes like that. So how do we apply these things? Basically right here, I'm just showing you guys walkthroughs of some of the screenshots I showed you guys earlier with some of these stockpiles that I've made. You can see on this backside one here, I didn't even, finish the whole back, because when we're down on the same level of the road that we're going to be driving like this, we would never see that backside. So that whole pile is purely for a role play scenario. There's another pile or two right here on my right side. And all I did was put a couple pieces of equipment there, made it paint, made it look like dirt. And then I can go back and, delete it and make it look like those machines have moved the dirt. And really just clean it up. All this side hill stuff is meant to look like it was cut out. The hill was cut out and graded into looking natural and how it needs to be. I know you guys have heard me use the term grade and grading a lot. In case you guys don't know, the definition of grading in civil engineering and landscape architectural construction is the work of ensuring a level base or one with a specified slope for construction work such as foundations, the base course of a road or railway, or landscape and garden improvements or surface drainage. So basically, all the stuff that I'm telling you guys and referencing is because I do a little bit of civil engineering, equipment operating, and I see grade. I see the little things that I'm talking about just with the naked eye, and I have OCD, so I see the little imperfections and it drives me crazy. So that's kind of one reason I say I use the smooth function a lot, and how I see things and when I know to stop and what angles to do stuff. A lot of that's just practice. You guys are gonna have to practice, and if you guys don't think something looks right, it probably doesn't. And if you guys just look at it, you'll probably be able to tell how to fix it. And usually, honestly, it's just the smooth button with your landscape tool. When you do that, it will mess up the area a little bit around it, obviously, and then you guys can go back and fix it. But basically, for the rest of this video, I'm gonna speed up the time a little bit. I'm gonna stop talking, and I'm just gonna show you guys how I basically went in here on Larry's map and just cleaned up a little bit on the side that I had already done. I am on the multiplayer side. You guys saw him loading up a trailer over there while I was messing around a second ago. So you guys can do this on the multiplayer side too. Sometimes it is kind of a pain and it doesn't like to load or render in right, so just be careful. Don't get frustrated. But if you guys want a brief explanation of what I'm doing here, I'll do that before I shut up. Basically, all I'm doing is trying to make these cutouts that I've done with my road grading look natural with my landscape texturing. I'm going in and adding dirt, adding rock, adding grass, different colors of rock, and smoothing. I'm really trying to get a lot of these areas on the sides that are in these grids stretched a little bit, so they're not these rough edges. There are areas that are close to trees, again, like we just talked about with the Placeables and stuff, that will not grade. What I do there is I basically use the rock texture, and I touched on that a little bit in episode 1. But yeah, I'm basically just gonna shut up a little bit here and kind of speed up and let you guys just kind of see how I play with the different paints and let things overlap and just give stuff a little bit of a different look and texture and grade to make everything pop and make everything a little bit unique. then I just want to show you right here real quick. Be careful when you guys are using the smooth button, because if you guys have crops or stuff like that, it will delete them, just kind of like that. And if you guys accidentally press a button while you're moving along the cultivated or plowed roads, it will clear it back to the original grass texture that we get when we smooth right here. So just be aware of those things. And that's why we're going to practice with our movement of the cursor. It's very finicky. Alright, I did want to show you guys one more thing how I was talking about earlier with unforeseen stuff. When I was making my little yard here on Larry's map, I ran into issues where I haven't had this problem before, so I'm not quite sure what happened. As you can see, I'm running into a lot of places where I can't place anything. The places that you're actually seeing right now are the only places that it let me put anything in this whole area. It let me grade the whole bottom and landscape it and make it flat, and then, you know, make it how I want to, which usually indicates everything's all good. But for whatever reason, that little middle section is the only area that I could even place this chicken coop anymore. And as far as my buildings went, those are the only options that I had. So I kind of had to work with the area that I picked, because unfortunately the area that I picked, I guess, had something wrong with it. So definitely something weird and unforeseen. I just wanted to kind of share with you guys. And yeah, just be creative. I think next episode I'm going to kind of go from start to finish on a Wilhelmina map. You know, maybe a half hour, and I'll kind of do a little section of dozing down the trees to grading to doing the landscape and even the road, so you can see it on the map. If you guys want me to do another one, kind of start to finish, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you guys have any more questions or want to see any more stuff in specific. What else I can help you guys with. Sorry, I'm not very well put together with my thoughts and comments. These videos are a bunch of work doing by myself. Definitely take several days worth of editing. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for your input and your support. Really appreciate y'all. Keep on trucking.